Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Fun Fridays. We will be beginning right on time at 10 a.m. We will have a little poetry story time before our main event, which is Kenn Nesbitt, the former Children's Poet Laureate of the United States. We're so excited to have him for National Poetry Month. And some people are saying hi. I don't know if these are the teacher names or your names, but hi, Diana, and hi, Tamara.
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay. Someone's saying it's their teacher's name. But hello to all the people joining us. We've missed you. We haven't had Fun Fridays for a while, obviously. Hi, Sachi. We're so happy to see you again.
Good morning, Ms. Warrington.
It's someone's birthday. It's Praneeth's birthday. Hello, room 405 at Cordero. Good morning. I realized my video was still off. Hi, Andres. Hi, room 209 at PS30. Okay. So in 3 minutes, we're gonna get started right on time with a poetry story time so that we can have as much time as possible with our special guest today, Kenn Nesbitt, the Children's Poet Laureate for the entire United States a few years ago. So we're so excited to have him. Hi, room 306 from PS16. Hi, Miss, oh, it's moving. Ornikowski's third grade Griffins. Hi, PS24. Hi, Divney.
Miss Kate, maybe everybody should have pencils and paper nearby.
Oh, that's a good, yes.
They might be creating their own poem today. So if you can grab some paper, maybe a notebook and a pencil or a pen, we might become poets today.
Oh, yes.
Good morning, room 206 at PS5. Good morning, room 302 at PS16. Miss Warrington, Miss Talali.
Oh, good. Some people are ready. Someone's created 200 poems. Maybe you'll be the next Children's Poet Laureate. Hi, room 110 at PS24. So as I said, we are going to get started right away so that we are ready at 10:15 when Kenn Nesbitt will start presenting. So I did read aloud using Hoopla. Hi, Anshuman. Hi, 220 at PS30. So we're gonna review some different kinds of poems and get ready for Kenn Nesbitt. And so it's 10 o'clock. So now I'm going to share my story. I have to record it because it gets so loud with their street cleaning on my street. So I'm gonna play the recording. And it's gonna be interactive, so get ready to type some answers. I will be checking them out. All right, are we ready? Okay. All right, so for our reading today, we are going to use Hoopla, which is something I just want to point out. If you have your library card, you can use it for free, so you can read all of the poems that are in these books. Today, I'm going to read one poem from each of the books so we can see some different styles of poems. But remember that you can read other poetry books. We also have audiobooks, comic books, ebooks, movies, and music, and TV on Hoopla, all for free with your library card. So let's start with If It Rains Pancakes. And these poems are haiku and lantern poems. Does anyone know what a haiku poem is? If you do, you can type it in the chat. It looks like some people know. So our first poem is April. And I thought we would read it because this month is April and it's our first Fun Fridays of April. April. Yellow tulips rise as if they're awakening from winter's slumber. Does anyone have yellow tulips in their neighborhood? You can type it in the chat. I know in my neighborhood, I see a lot of yellow tulips. So I liked this poem a lot because it reminded me of my real life. And now a lantern poem. I hadn't heard of a lantern poem before. Had anyone heard of a lantern poem? So on this page, it explains what it is. It's 1 syllable, 2 syllables, 3 syllables, 4 syllables, and then 1. So it is in the shape of a lantern. So let's read a lantern poem. This is one that I miss, and hopefully we'll get to be sharing hugs soon. So hug, a gift that is best when you return it. All right, let's look at another book. Now we're going to read Bowtie Pasta is a book of acrostic poems. Does anybody know what an acrostic poem is? Type it in the chat if you know. And here's a hint if you forget. Here we see an acrostic poem. So you can still type if you want to tell us what is an acrostic poem. So this poem is called Acrostic. All kinds of poems are cool, but this type is really interesting because if you look over at the letters going straight down the left side of the page, the first initials spell out a word or may even contain a message. So here we see acrostic. And this poem answered our question, what an acrostic poem is. Let's read another one. I like this poem, Rainy Day. Reading in a cozy nook, asking for another book. I make cookies by the sheet. Next, they cool. I dunk, then eat. Yo-yo, board games, watch the rain. Draw a face inside each pane. So I think they mean in the window pane if it's foggy and you can write things. Afterward, I make s'mores. Yes, I love the great indoors. Although in this picture, they have a fire in a pot, which I do not recommend doing. I think that might be a little dangerous. So you should make s'mores outside with an adult. And those are a couple acrostic poems. Let's look at concrete poems with the book Ode to a Commode. Now, does anyone know what a concrete poem is? If you know, type the answer in the chat. And while we're looking for some answers, let's look at some poems to give us a hint. So we'll start with Ode to a Commode. Does anyone know what a commode is? We saw a hint on the cover. It's a toilet, right? I think some people know it's a toilet. So a concrete poem kind of makes a picture with the words. So what do you think is happening in this? Because the words are swirling around and they look like water. And we know the poem is about a toilet. This poem is about flushing a toilet. So let's read it. Flush goes the sound of, I'll try to show you how to read it. So flush goes the sound of the toilet. The water with everything in it vanishes in a swirl and a whoosh, and the bowl fills back up in a minute. The end. That one was kind of hard because if you were holding the book, you could turn it around. So this one we had to read upside down. Let's see if we can find an easier one. Now let's read A Twisted Tale. Now remember, the concrete poems make a picture with the words. So what is this poem about? Type it in the chat. We can look at the picture and make a guess. I see some people know this is about a pretzel, a twisted tale, because pretzels are twisted. We can see down here, they're twisting around trying to make a pretzel, and this person did it. Sometimes you're soft and you're chewy and warm, and sometimes you're hard and you crunch. You have an unusual, interesting form, and you're always delicious with lunch. Is anyone having pretzels for lunch today? You can type it in the chat. Unfortunately, I am not having pretzels for lunch, but now I want to have pretzels. Do you like the warm, chewy pretzels, or do you like the hard, crunchy pretzels? You can type it in the chat. I personally love the warm, chewy pretzels, and you can dip them in mustard or different sauces. But you know, sometimes a hard, crunchy, salty pretzel is really good too. All right, let's go back, and now we can read Something Sure Smells Around Here. And these are limericks. Does anyone know what a limerick is? Type it in the chat if you know. I have to say, I love all these poems. They're very silly, and they're getting me ready and excited to meet Kenn Nesbitt next. All right. So here it tells us that a limerick is 5-lined rhyming poems that are funny, silly, or clever. They say sly, but clever is another word. So let's read a limerick. We'll go with the first one. There once was a student named Sonny who bought books of jokes with his money. He ate one at lunchtime, then gave us his punchline. That tasted a little bit funny. So I love limericks because they're really silly. So that one, he ate a joke book, and jokes are funny, so he said it tasted funny. Oh, I like this one too. One evening, a boy named Carmelo dreamed he ate an enormous marshmallow. He woke up at dawn and his pillow was gone. When he screamed, he saw feathers, poor fellow. So what happened? You can type in the chat box if you have a guess. Why was he screaming and feathers came out of his mouth? Because he dreamed he was eating a marshmallow, but he ate his pillow with feathers inside. So those are pretty silly. Okay, now we're going to read Underneath My Bed. And we can see underneath my bed is filled with list poems. So what is a list poem? You can type in the chat. This one might be easy to guess. Yeah, it's a poem that lists lots of things. So here at this poem called At the Bus Stop, we're going to get a list of things that people do at the bus stop. Are you ready? Jennifer jumps rope. Tanya texts. Tony twirls like a ballerina. Haley hums. William whistles. Chloe catches up on reading. Luke listens to tunes. Miles munches. Peyton plays I Spy. Oh, I like that game. Jackson jokes. Logan laughs. Sean shows Cheyenne the green, scaly, slimy bug he found in his bed this morning. I think that's what we see here. Ah, that's how I would feel. And I just saw the time, so let's hurry along. Now we're at our last book. I saw an invisible lion today, and this is filled with quatrains. What kind of poem is a quatrain? And if you're not sure, there's a clue if you know what qua means at the beginning of a word, like quadruplets. Let's see. So here's a hint. So quatrains are poems that have 4 lines. And this points out that it can be one group of 4 lines or many groups of 4 lines. And they usually have specific rhyming schemes. So we won't go too much into the rhyming scheme, but if you have been studying them with your teacher, it gives you the rhyme scheme under the title so you can check it and see if it matches what you've been learning. Okay, let's read it now. I saw an invisible lion today. I saw an invisible lion today and 14 invisible leopards and 30 invisible sheep being led by 7 invisible shepherds. I saw an invisible baby giraffe who ate from invisible trees. I watched as he shook an invisible nest that was filled with invisible bees. I saw an invisible penguin who skated upon an invisible rink, along with a group of invisible skunks who made an invisible steak. I saw an invisible clown who is juggling 3 highly invisible balls, and he jumped back and forth on invisible horses running out of invisible stalls. I saw an invisible witch as she cackled atop her invisible broom. It's pretty amazing the things that I saw without ever leaving my room. So do you think that the narrator of the poem really saw all of those things? You can type it in the chat. I don't think so either. I think that they have a good imagination. So that's why I like this poem. And then another poem that I like is My Father's Mustache. Does anyone here have a father that has a mustache? My dad used to have a mustache and my brother has one now. So I like the idea of a mustache. So let's read this one. My father's mustache is the largest in town. It's bigger than all of the others. It grows along the width of his face and continues right on to his brothers. So he's sharing his mustache, which I guess is nice. All right, so those are all from the Poetry Adventure series that you can get for free on Hoopla. And partly to introduce our next guest, I want to show you some books that you can read if you enjoy the poems. We're about to celebrate National Poetry Month with Kenn Nesbitt, who is the former Children's Poet Laureate of the United States. And these are some of the books that we have that are his poems. So we have My Hippo Has the Hiccups, More Bears, and the Tighty-Whitey Spider. So those are 3 books we have by Kenn Nesbitt, who's gonna be coming up soon. I'm so excited to celebrate National Poetry Month with him. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and get ready for Kenn Nesbitt.
Hello. Hey, and
Hello.
Bigfoot is Missing is also my book.
Oh, it is.
Well,
Okay.
so I co-authored that book with Pat Lewis, who was the previous U.S. Children's Poet Laureate. So that book was written by two U.S. Children's Poet
Double
Fancy
whammy.
Pantses.
Yes. And I just
Yes.
want to highlight, those are just what's available on Hoopla. We have more available in person or through the libraries. So we hope that after hanging out with Kenn Nesbitt for the next 45 minutes, everyone's excited to read more poems by you.
Yay! I can't wait. This is so fun. Hey, I see we've got hundreds of people here. This is amazing. Wow.
Yes. And
Well,
some people are sharing screens, so we might have up to 1,000 people with us.
my goodness, that is fantastic. Well, I am ready to start, but if you wanted to do anything like an introduction or, whatever before we start, that's okay with me too.
Well, what's there to say except we have a very exciting program, and Kenn is famous around the world for his great poetry, fun and silly and exciting. And as we mentioned, he was the former U.S. Children's Poet Laureate, which is, kind of a big deal, means you're doing a good job with your poetry. So we're so excited to learn with you. I think everyone should have paper and pencil so that we can practice with you and take it away. I'm ready.
Well, I wasn't actually planning to do any writing today. We're just going to have some
Never mind.
fun. But you know what? Oh, one more thing I wanted to mention before we start is that all those books that you were sharing were written by a friend of mine. Brian P. Cleary is the author of all of those books. His reading is poetry is
Adventure.
fun. Poetry Adventure series. Yeah. And they are fantastic books. They really are. So
they were very silly. I thought it would be nice. I didn't want to read your poems because I wasn't sure what you'd be sharing with us. So I didn't want to cover anything, but I thought those would be a good way to get us primed and ready for National Poetry Month.
Okay, well, that's enough just jibber jabber. Let's get started, shall we? Hello, everybody. Good afternoon or good morning or whatever. Oh, it's still morning, isn't it? Yeah, good morning. My name is Kenn Nesbitt, and I'm an author, which really just means that I'm a person who likes to write books, but I have to warn you, I only like to write funny books. I hope that's okay with you. And most of my funny books have been books of funny poems. So what we're going to do today is I want to talk to you a little bit about how you can become an author too, because I know that some of you may want to become authors, and you can. And I'm going to show you, kind of how I did it and how you can become authors too. So let me put something up on the screen here, make sure this works. And if everything's working the way it's supposed to, you should be looking at a screen that says, how to be an author. So I want to start off just by introducing myself a little bit. I want to show you first where I am, because I know where you are, but I am not anywhere near New Jersey or New York or anywhere around there. So here's a map of the United States, and I live in Washington State, which is up here in the upper left corner of the country. Now, that's not to be confused with Washington, D.C., where the president lives. That's a lot closer to where you are. That's way over here. Boom. And, oh, wait, hold on. I think that needs a big old smiley face right about there. Yay. Now, I also want to show you what it is that I write. You saw those 4 books that you can check out from Hoopla, but let me show you. I have written lots and lots and lots of books for kids. Most of my books have been these books of funny poems, books like The Tighty-Whitey Spider and The Armpit of Doom and My Cat Knows Karate and all these other ones. Now, I have written some other books too, books that are not poems, but they're still pretty funny. For example, I wrote this little picture book, a little storybook called More Bears, and it's like really cute. I even wrote a bedtime book for babies called Kiss, Kiss, Good Night. Wow. Yeah. Oh, hey, and my newest book of all, it's so new. It just came out 2 weeks ago. It is brand new, and it's called My Dog Likes to Disco. I hope you get a chance to read that. But you know what? even if like all my books are checked out of the library, if you still want to read some really funny poems, all you have to do is get your parents or your teacher to take you to my website. It's called poetryforkids.com. And when you visit, just be sure to click on this guy right here, because that's where I keep all the funny poems. There's always at least 100 funny poems right there. I put up a new one every week. And enough about that. I want to talk to you a little bit today about how you can be an author. Now, this is going to sound really, really obvious, but if you want to be an author, the only thing you have to do is write. Now, that might sound like so obvious. You're like, well, of course you need to write if you want to be an author. But here's the thing. What you might not know is that writing is just like anything else you do. Everything is hard when you don't know how to do it, right? Like the first time you ever try to ride a bicycle, you probably fall over or crash into a parked car. You know, the first time you try to ride a skateboard, it seems a little hard, but with a little bit of practice, every time you do it, you get better at it and it gets easier. So if you write a lot, you get a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better, and eventually you're a lot better. And oops, clear that. Okay. And but I know probably the biggest question that people have then is, well, what should I even write about, right? Like where do you get ideas for things to write about? And that's what I want to talk to you about today. I'm going to show you a bunch of poems that I wrote, and I'm going to show you where the ideas come from. But I want to start with this one here. My very, very, very first book was called The Aliens Have Landed at Our School. Now, it's not just poems about aliens in school. There's all kinds of stuff in here. But this particular poem I want to share with you is called Swimming Ool. And it's kind of like swimming pool, but it's swimming ool. Now, I want to tell you where the idea for this came from first. See, one day, it was a really, really hot, sunny summer day. And my family, we had rented a boat, and we were out in the middle of a lake. And I had jumped off the boat, and I was swimming in the lake, and I was thinking, you know, I haven't written a poem in like 2 weeks. I should probably make up a poem. But what should my poem be about? Oh, swimming. So see, one place that you can get ideas from is just things that you do. If you happen to be riding a bike, you might think, oh, I think I'll write a poem about riding a bike. Okay, so here is the poem, Swimming Ool. I made this up in my head while I was swimming, and then when I got out, I dried off and I wrote it down right away so I wouldn't forget. And it goes like this. Swimming in the swimming pool is where I like to be. Wearing underwater goggles so that I can see. Yesterday, before I swam, I drank a cup of tea. Now our pool is just an ool because I took a pee. Okay, that was a little bit gross. I'm sorry. But really, I just took the pee off the pool side. Okay. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about, you know, how I became an author. And then I have a whole bunch more poems that I want to share with you to show you where the ideas come from. Because you see, I wasn't always an author. Now, once upon a time, I was just a little kid. So here's a picture of me when I was about 2 years old. I'm probably lying there in my diaper. That other kid sitting up there, that is my older brother, and his name is Ross. And then that guy in the middle, that's our father. And of course, you can see what we're doing in this picture, right? Yeah, we're reading books. And when I was a kid, we read lots and lots and lots of books. But the ones that I remember the most were the funny rhyming books, right? Like the first book I ever remember my parents reading to me when I was just a baby was Mother Goose Nursery Rhymes. And if you've ever read Mother Goose or heard Mother Goose, you know that these are like these weird, short, funny, rhyming stories that don't make a whole lot of sense. But I loved listening to those when I was a baby. And when I got old enough that I could read books on my own, I started reading Dr. Seuss, you know, like The Cat in the Hat and Green Eggs and Ham. Hey, and my favorite Dr. Seuss book of all time is one that you might never have even heard of because like they didn't make a movie out of it or anything. My favorite Dr. Seuss book was called I Had Trouble in Getting to Sala Saloo. Yeah, if you ever come across a copy of that book, I highly recommend you read it. It is really, really weird. I love it. I must have read that book like 100 times when I was a kid. Now, something else that we used to do besides just read books was we used to go on a lot of road trips, car. So here's another picture. Okay, so that's me right down there at the bottom. That is my older brother, Ross, in that really weird looking coat. Right behind him is my grandma and my little brother, Danny, and my mom and my dad. And there's the car. Now, the reason I'm showing you a picture of our car is because when I was a kid, man, we used to go everywhere in this car. Like, we would go camping, we'd go on picnics, we'd drive to the mountains, we'd go to the beach. We were just always going places in that car. So it would be my mom and my dad in the front seat, and me and my two stinky brothers in the back seat. But this was so long ago that, you know what kind of video games we had to play with in the back seat to keep us busy? None. Yeah, and it's not because my parents were mean. It's because this is so long ago that electronics had not even been invented yet. Yeah, so like we didn't have any Nintendo Switches or 3DSs or Game Boys or iPhones or any of that stuff. No, the only things that we had to play with when I was a kid was we had like sticks and rocks and like superhero action figures. Except we weren't allowed to bring the sticks and the rocks into the car. So we would just hit each other with our superheroes like, boom. Well, now hang on. It's not like we were doing it on purpose, right? But trust me, if you are stuck in the back seat for an hour between your two stinky brothers, after a while you start looking at each other and saying things like, hey, quit touching me, you know, and then your brother goes, well, I'm not touching you, you're touching me. And you go, I'm not touching, hey, that's mine, give me that back. And the next thing you know, we're like punching each other in the head. Now, of course, we just thought it was all great fun, right? But parents get a little cranky when you're fighting in the back seat. So they had to come up with some way to keep us from fighting. And what they figured out was that they could just tell stories or sing songs or recite poems. Like, I don't know how, but my father had memorized a lot of poems, and he could just start reciting a poem, and then we'd all pay attention for at least the next 2 minutes, like, da. And I loved listening to those poems. Now, as I got a little bit older, oh, wait, here's another picture. Okay, so this is my older brother, Ross, in the dark blue shirt there. That's my little brother, Danny, in the purple shirt. This was our dog, Rhodes. The kid in the red sweater, that was our friend. His name was Jimmy. Yeah, and there's me. Now, I'm sure you can probably tell just by looking at this picture that my brothers and our friends look kind of normal, right? Yeah, and I'm the one that looks like I'm making plans to take over the world. Like, okay, so look, I admit it. I've always been kind of goofy and kind of silly, and I always liked making jokes and making people laugh. And when I grew up, I figured out that I could just put these two things that I liked together, write poems and making people laugh. And now this is what I get to do for a living, is I just make up funny poems and I share them with kids in my books and on the internet and in schools and online and libraries. And in fact, I got a whole bunch more poems I want to share with you today. This next poem is actually based on something that really happened, something that I did. So when I was in the 6th grade, my school went on a field trip to the snow. Where we lived, we didn't have any snow, but we went on a field trip up to the mountains where there was snow, and all the kids brought their sleds. Well, it turns out that that day, one kid accidentally crashed into a tree. And I'll bet you can guess which kid that was. Yeah, it was me. I crashed into a tree. I broke my leg. Oh, that wasn't very much fun. But once I started writing poems, I was thinking back to that memory of sledding in the snow, and I decided to write a funny poem about a kid who went sledding and crashed into a tree. So this is from my book, When the Teacher Isn't Looking, and it is called Snow Day. Here goes. Snow day, Fred said. All play. Let's sled. No school, just snow. Way cool. Let's go. Fred ran in shed, had plan, got sled. Woo! Go slow, Mom said. I know, said Fred. Uphill went Fred. Downhill Fred sped. Sled streaked on past. Mom shrieked, too fast. Snow blew, can't see. Fred flew, hit tree. Sled bent, Fred's head got dent. Poor Fred, he cried. Now plays inside snow days. So see, one place to get ideas is from things that you do. Another place to get ideas for things to write about are things that happen to you. So places you go, things you do, things that happen to you. Let me show you another place where you can get ideas for things to write about. So one day I was at a school, and at lunch, I was in the teacher's lounge in the staff room having my lunch, and I overheard a conversation between two teachers, and I'll tell you what happened in that conversation in a second. First, I'm going to read you the poem, and then I'll explain how I got the idea for this poem from that conversation. So this is from my book, Revenge of the Lunch Ladies, and the poem is called I Have Noodles in My Nostrils. I have noodles in my nostrils. I have noodles on my nose. There are noodles on my cheeks and chin and dripping down my clothes. I've got more on my forehead. Some are sticking to my neck. It's completely disconcerting. I'm a noodle-covered wreck. I can see them in my caps, and I know they're in my shoes. When I stand, they're somewhat squishy, and I feel them start to ooze. There are several in my pockets. There's a handful in my hair, and I'm pretty sure that some are even in my underwear. So try not to do what I did. I'm a total nincompoop. And I fell asleep at lunch while eating chicken noodle soup. So I was having lunch and I overheard these two teachers talking, and one teacher was telling another teacher about a student who fell asleep during lunch and spilled noodles all over his clothes. And I just thought, oh, that is a perfect idea for a poem. So see, you can get ideas from things that you do, things that happen to you, or even just things that you see or hear around you. Pay attention. And sometimes you'll hear something that might make a good story. So now this one's a little different. I wrote an entire book of Christmas poems with another poet. Her name was Linda Knaus. And so we wrote a whole bunch of Christmas poems together. This one, though, was sort of based on a little bit based on a true story. So when I was a kid, it seemed like every year there was something special I wanted for Christmas. And for some reason, I never got the thing that I really, really wanted. Like one year, I wanted a record player, and instead I wound up getting a soldering iron. What 9-year-old needs a soldering iron? I don't know. My father-in-law told me that when he was a kid, he wanted a basketball more than anything. And he thought there was a basketball under the Christmas tree, but when he opened it up, instead it was a globe. It was a map of the world, and he was so disappointed. Well, I decided to come up with a way that you could write a Christmas list to Santa that guarantees you're going to get the exact thing you want. And so this poem is called Dear Santa, Here's My Christmas List. Dear Santa, here's my Christmas list. I hope you bring it all. I've only asked for gifts my parents can't find at the mall. I'd like to have a UFO with aliens inside, and maybe a Tyrannosaurus Rex that I could ride. A 99-foot robot is a present I could use. I'll also need a time machine and rocket-powered shoes. Please bring a gentle genie who will grant my every wish. And don't forget, a wizard's wand. And yes, a talking fish. Of course, I'll need a unicorn. And won't you please provide a dragon and a castle in the English countryside? Of course, the weight of all these things might cause your sleigh to crash. If that's the case, dear Santa, please feel free to just bring cash. Do you ever just want money for Christmas? You could write a poem just like this, but instead of, if the thing that you really want for Christmas is a new video game or an iPad or something like that, then you could write that at the end of the poem and come up with a different rhyme than what I did. So let me show you another place to get ideas. I don't know if this has ever happened to you yet, but if it hasn't yet, I promise you it will. Someday, your teacher is going to say to you, you have to write a poem. Now, if your teacher says to you, you have to write a poem, and it needs to be about flowers, well, then this won't really help. But if your teacher says, you have to write a poem, and it can be about anything you want, try this. Write what's called the I can't write a poem, right? So you just start it like that. You go, I can't write a poem. I think it's really hard. I'd rather go play Minecraft or football in the yard, right? And then you just kind of keep going like that. And the next thing you know, you got a whole poem and you hand it in. So you start it with, I can't write a poem. I don't want to write a poem. I don't like writing poems. Or in my case, what I did is I simply wrote a poem called I Have to Write a Poem. And it goes like this. I have to write a poem, but I really don't know how. So maybe I'll just make a rhyme with something dumb like Cow. Okay, I'll write about a cow, but that's so commonplace. I think I'll have to make her be a cow from outer space. My cow will need a helmet and a spacesuit and a ship. Of course, she'll keep a blaster in the holster on her hip. She'll hurtle through the galaxy on meteoric flights to battle monkey aliens in huge karate fights. She'll duel with laser sabers while avoiding lava spray to vanquish evil emperors and always save the day. I hope the teacher likes my tale. Amazing Astro Cow. Yes, that's the poem I will write as soon as I learn how. So the joke is, I'm claiming I don't know how to write a poem, and yet I wrote a whole poem. So see all these great places you can get ideas from, things that happen to you, things that you do, places you go, things you see around you, stuff you want, or even saying, I can't write a poem. I don't know how. Well, here's another one. So I have this book. It's called My Hippo Has the Hiccups. And this book and the last one I shared, the Tighty-Whitey Spider, are both available for you to check out on Hoopla. So you can read these poems as well. Now, this poem, though, I'm going to wait until after I'm done reading it to explain where the idea came from. The poem is called My Puppy Punched Me in the Eye. My puppy punched me in the eye. My rabbit whacked my ear. My ferret gave a frightful cry and roundhouse kicked my rear. My lizard flipped me upside down. My kitten kicked my head. My hamster slammed me to the ground and left me nearly dead. So my advice, avoid regrets no matter what you do. Don't ever let your family pets take lessons in Kung Fu. Hey, you know, one question that I get a lot from kids is they want to know whether or not any of my poems are actually true, right? Like they ask me, did any of this stuff really happen to you? And of course, I tell them, well, no. But just as with some of the other poems I read today, most of my poems are based on something real. For example, this poem was based on my actual dog. Here, let me show you a picture of my dog. This is my dog. His name is Jesse. And yeah, I know, he's like so ugly that he's cute. He's like an old man with a giant head. But here's the thing. His favorite thing to do is to jump on people. Like anybody that comes to our house, he is right there just going. And I don't know if he thinks he's protecting the house or if he just wants to play. But, you know, one day I saw him jumping on somebody and I just thought, man, wouldn't it be funny if he had like superpowers or maybe a giant laser, or maybe he took Kung Fu lessons, then he could totally knock them out. And so I just wrote a poem about it. See? So you can make stuff up out of your imagination based on some things that you see around you. Now, here's another poem that was based on something real. So when I was 5 years old, my parents used to send me to the store a lot. The store was only 1 block from our house, and they would give me a little bit of money, and then they would send me to the corner store to buy like a loaf of bread and a carton of milk, right? Except, oh man, they would only give me the exact amount for the bread and the milk. So I never had any change left over. And trust me, I would much rather have bought fun stuff like comic books and toys and candy and things like that, but I never got to. I only got to buy the bread and the milk. So when I grew up, I said, you know what? I'm going to write a poem about going to the store, except I'm going to get stuff that I really want. So here is the poem from my book, The Armpit of Doom. The poem is called My Parents Sent Me to the Store. Yeah. My parents sent me to the store to buy a loaf of bread. I came home with a puppy and a parakeet instead. I came home with a guinea pig, a hamster, and a cat, a turtle, and a lizard, and a friendly little rat. I also had a monkey and a mongoose and a mouse. Those animals went crazy when I brought them in the house. They barked and yelped and hissed and chased my family out the door. My parents never let me do the shopping anymore. Now, of course, in this poem, I imagined coming home with a whole lot of pets. But you know what? I really didn't need to, because between me, my two brothers, and our friend Jimmy, we were only allowed to have 3 cats each. So between the 4 of us, we had 12 cats. Today, I still have some cats. Here, I'll show you a picture. So these are my cats. The orange one, his name is Thomas, and he's really old. He is 20 years old, which for a cat, that's like a person being 150. And then the white one there, his name is Reed, and he's just a kitten. He's only 1, but they're totally best friends. So you could write a poem about your pets, or the pets that you would like to have. Maybe you might like to have a pet dragon and a pet unicorn and a pet narwhal, and why not write a poem about it? Now, this next one is something that I noticed, right? Something I saw. And I will explain why I wrote this poem after I read it. This is from my book, The Biggest Burp Ever, and it is about what happened one summer, and it's called I Didn't Go Camping. Here it is. I didn't go camping. I didn't go hiking. I didn't go fishing. I didn't go biking. I didn't go play on the slides at the park. I didn't watch shooting stars way after dark. I didn't play baseball or soccer outside. I didn't go on an amusement park ride. I didn't throw frisbees. I didn't fly kites or have any travels or see any sights. I didn't watch movies with blockbuster crowds or lay on the front lawn and look at the clouds. I didn't go swimming at pools or beaches or visit an orchard and pick a few peaches. I didn't become a guitarist or drummer. But boy, I played plenty of Minecraft this summer. Now, I said I'd tell you why I wrote this poem. You know, the truth is, I've never even played Minecraft. Not once. So I'm not anywhere near beating the Ender Dragon or anything like that. But my kids love Minecraft. And one summer, it seemed like that was all they did. You know, we tried to get them to go swimming. We tried to get them to go play outside. We tried to get them to do all sorts of things. All they wanted to do was sit there with their laptops on the sofa and go dig, 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 dig. And I thought, you know what? There's a good idea for a poem. So write poems about things that you notice about you, what your friends do, or write poems about things you notice your parents do. Yeah. Okay, and this is the last poem I have for you today. This is just one more thing that I kind of noticed. This is from my book, My Cat Knows Karate. And the poem is called Not So Fast Food. Here it is. Burgers, pizzas, chicken wings, tacos, French fries, onion rings, ice cream, donuts, cookies, cakes, sodas, chips, and chocolate shakes. These are things I love to munch. Breakfast, dinner, snack, and lunch. Every meal I eat includes more and more and more fast foods. Yet with every meal I eat, I grow slower on my feet. This is why I want to know, why does fast food make me slow? And I wrote that because, they call it fast food because you get it really, really fast. But if all you ever ate was fast food, it's not especially healthy, and it might ultimately cause you to slow down a little bit. So I'm thinking they probably should call it slow food. Or maybe it's that food that takes a long time to get is slow food, and that makes you fast because it's healthy. Yeah. And that is how you can become an author. Write about things you see around you, stuff that happens to you, places you go, things you want, things you like, things you don't like, or even things entirely out of your imagination. And if you just write and write and write, you can become an author yourself. Oh my gosh, look at the time. Well, we have about 10 minutes left, which is enough time that if anyone here has anything they're wondering about, if there's anything you want to know about poems, books, writing, authors, me, why don't we use the Q&A box? And let me see, if you have something you want to know, go ahead and type it in the Q&A box. Don't just type in stuff you want to tell me. Usually questions are things you're wondering about, and they usually start with good question words like how, where, when, why, who, what, taco, octopus, Thursday, banana. Oh, wait, sorry, not those last ones, just the first ones. So let's see here. I'm gonna scroll down and see if, because I know a bunch of kids were typing in the Q&A box earlier, but they weren't typing questions. Oh, wait, someone just asked a question that I accidentally deleted. So I will tell you, I will answer it. The question was
one from Lauren. Oh, sorry, you already saw it?
I think so. It was something like, what inspired me to write poems?
Who? Yeah.
Oh, who? Oh, I'm glad you read it because I was going delete, delete, delete. I missed it. The very first poem that I ever wrote, here, I'll actually show it to you, okay? So here's my website, poetryforkids.com. And if you just want to read poems, just click right here where it says funny poems. But if you want to read my first poem, I'll scroll down to the bottom where it says biography. That's where you can learn about me. And just click on that superhero looking dude and you'll see it says about Kenn Nesbitt. Well, down here, you'll see where it says, my first children's poem, Scrawny Tawny Skinner, was written in 1994. And if you click on that, you can read my first poem, Scrawny Tawny Skinner, along with an explanation of how this poem was inspired by Shel Silverstein's poem, Sarah Cynthia Sylvia Stout Would Not Take the Garbage Out. So my first poem was inspired by Shel Silverstein. Okay, here we go. Next question. Do I like video games? I do, but I'm very, very specific on the kind of video games that I like. I especially like The Legend of Zelda. So I have played almost all the Legend of Zelda games except for Breath of the Wild. The last Zelda game that I played on my Switch here was the Link's Awakening. So yeah, good stuff. And you can write poems about video games. I have written poems about Minecraft. I've written poems about assorted video games. I've written poems about Pokemon Go and so on and so forth. Okay, next question. How many books did I make? I'm glad you asked that The truth is, I didn't actually know because I'd written so many books. I forgot. I didn't keep count. But I had a new book come out 2 weeks ago. And so I thought I should probably go back and count and see how many books I wrote so far. And it turns out I've written 24 books. My newest one is My Dog Likes to Disco, but I'm going to be working on another one very, very soon here. Someone wants to know, when is my birthday? My birthday is on the 33rd of January, which is right before October. Yeah. No, I'm just making that up. My birthday is actually in February. My birthday's on the 20th of February. In fact, so I just had a birthday 2 months ago, and yeah, and I turned extra old. I was just regular old before. Now I'm extra old. Let's see. Can kids become authors? Of course. Absolutely. That's why I'm here today, to tell you that you can become authors. You don't have to wait until you're, you know, I don't know, like 30 or 40 or 11 or anything like that. I know of best-selling authors who were 8 years old, 9 years old, 12 years old, 15 years old. Yeah. So, here, I'll give you two examples. There was a boy named Alec Greven who, when he was 9 years old in the 4th grade, he noticed that at his school, some of the boys had like crushes on some of the girls, but they didn't even know how to say hi. They're like, you know, and so he decided to write a book. He called it How to Talk to Girls. And it was such a huge bestseller that he went on like Good Morning America and Ellen DeGeneres, and he sold so many books that he was making more money than his parents. And then he wrote a sequel called How to Talk to Moms. And then he wrote one called How to Talk to Dads. And then he wrote one called How to Talk to Santa. And then he wrote one called Rules for School, because that would just be weird if it was called How to Talk to School. But yeah, 9 years old. See, you don't have to wait. Do it now. Let's see. Do we have to make a poem about animals? No, you can make poems about anything. You can make poems about imaginary things. You can make poems about food, sports, games, school, crashing and screaming and explosions, you know, whatever your favorite stuff is, write about that. How did I make poems? It was a combination of my brain and a pencil. You should try it. It's really fun, right? You just get a piece of paper and a pencil and ask yourself, what's the weirdest thing I can think of today? And, you know, even if it's like pirates wearing little pink tutus and dancing in the ballet, write a poem. I'm a pirate ballerina on a pirate sailing ship. Yeah, just whatever, anything. It's okay. Ooh, why do poems have so much rhymes? I can answer that. Here's the thing. You probably know that poems don't have to rhyme, right? They don't. But what rhyming does is rhyming makes poems feel happier, lighter, sillier, you know. So if you're going to write a funny poem, it usually works best if you also make it a rhyming poem. But if you wanted to write a sad poem or a serious poem, you probably want to think about not rhyming it, because it would be weird to have these happy rhymes in a sad poem, right? So that's how to decide. Poems don't have to rhyme, but the happy ones usually do. Ooh, good question here. How fast do you usually make poems? You know, the quickest I ever wrote a poem was about 5 minutes, but, and I've written poems that took me 3 weeks of working hours and hours and hours every single day just on one poem. But on average, most of my poems take about 2 or 3 or 4 hours. Now, I know that might sound like a long time, but trust me, it's no more time than you might spend, you know, watching cartoons or playing a video game or chasing your sister around the house or, you know, that sort of thing, right? So usually, yeah, let's call it about 3 hours on average for one poem. Ooh, good question. Why do you write funny poems? Because you know why? I think there's enough sad poems and serious poems in the world, and I don't think there are nearly enough funny poems in the world. And I just want people to be happy, and I want them to feel good, and I want them to laugh. And I found out that I'm kind of pretty good at making jokes and making up my own jokes. And so that's why I write funny poems, just to make more people laugh. Let's see, I answered that one. Oh, wow, there's questions coming up. Hey, this isn't working right. Are there really 163 questions in here?
I'm trying to delete the ones that you already answered.
Oh, that's what's happening. Okay, yeah. I get it. Okay, why do people write books nowadays? I don't know. I can only tell you why I write books. I write books because it's fun. And I think that's, you know, actually, I think that's the answer. I think the reason that most people write books nowadays is because they like writing. And I got to tell you, when I was a kid, I didn't like writing. I thought writing was the hardest thing on the planet. But once I wrote a poem that was fun to do, oh, I was just like, oh, maybe writing isn't so bad after all. And then I wrote more and more and more, and it got easy and it got really fun. And so the only reason I write books, or the main reason I write books, is because I liked, oh my gosh, are we really out of time? Oh shoot, I was just looking at the clock. And I was like, I think we're out of time.
Oh my, yeah. I didn't realize either. It's 11:02.
Uh-oh, we ran over.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so I want to apologize if I didn't get to answer your specific question. Oh, can I answer? There was one last question though that I want to answer. Somebody just asked the question, how do you come up with all those rhymes? And I want to show you how you come up with all the rhymes, okay? It's really easy. If you need to come up with some words that rhyme, all you have to do is visit poetryforkids.com, okay? And when you visit, if you look just down on the side here, you'll see it says Rhyming Dictionary for Kids. Now, what that means is you can type any word right there. So if you type cat and press enter, you'll get a list of all the words that rhyme with cat, like at, bat, brat, chat, fat, flat, and so forth. See? And if you typed in dog, oops, I'll type in dog, then you would get words that rhyme with dog, like bog, clog, cog, flog, fog, frog, hog, etc. So that's where you can get your own rhymes. All right, I'll take that back off the screen. And we're out of time.
Yes,
But
thank you so much. I see lots of people typing. We had so much fun. You're so funny. Thank you. So thank you so much for sharing some time with us.
my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. And I hope you guys keep on reading, especially poetry, and I hope you have fun with it.
I think that we definitely had fun today. So yes, I hope we continue. And I put the website in the chat a couple of times. So hopefully people visit it and make some rhymes of their own. I'm saying I love your books. So thank you so much. Jennifer, would you like to say anything?
Oh, thank you very much for joining us today. The students really enjoyed it, and they seem to think you're really, 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 really funny is what I keep getting. And they like your pet. They love your
Nice.
pet.
Yeah,
Especially,
a lot of things about your pet.
yeah.
I like someone said, I'm scared, but it's cute.
Oh, hey, speaking of which, can I show you one more thing before I go?
Sure.
Right.
I have to, let me take my headphones off. I got to step away for just 1 second. I'll be
Yeah, they
right
want
back.
us to see the dog.
Yes. But if you have class, you can feel free to go. But if you have some time.
I hope he's going to get one of his pets.
Okay, I'm back. Never mind. I can't show you after all. I thought he was right there. I have a new kitten. His name is Peanut, and he's only 2 months old, so he's absolutely adorable. And I thought he was asleep right over here, but he's not there, so I can't show you. Sorry, I tried.
Oh, well, we appreciate you trying. And someone
All right.
said, I like you. Oh.
Aw. Hey, well, thank you very much, everybody. You guys have a wonderful rest of the day and enjoy your weekend, and I hope to see you again sometime.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
right.
And everyone have fun for
care.
National Poetry Month.
Yes, we'll see you next Friday.
Goodbye,
Bye.
everybody. Thank
Bye.
you.